Good evening. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. As everyone knows, this has been an incredibly strange year and an even stranger one for the arts, especially music. We have jumped through many hurdles since August, and as a vocal department, we are so thrilled to be able to actually present our first concert of the season in person. So thank you so much for coming. I wanted to give you just a little bit of background as to what we've kind of been up to these last several months compared to what we're used to, and all the hurdles these kids have jumped through to still try to put on a good concert for you tonight. So normally, in a normal year, we meet in the choir room just on the other side of that wall, but with 98 junior high students, it is too small to be able to fit all of us in there without social distancing. So we have been rehearsing all this year in the cafeteria, just over there. So these students have had to get used to singing seated 6 feet apart, as well as masked for part of our rehearsal process. As you can see, all the students are masked tonight. And if anybody who's ever tried to talk in a mask knows, singing in a mask is twice as hard, because you're constantly breathing out. Anybody who wears glasses knows the pain. I know the pain of trying to do anything breathing in a mask with glasses. And they have been incredibly optimistic troopers this past year. And really, they have helped me kind of find the unique joys in the different way of doing things. Because we've had to sing spread out so often, we've often had little kind of sectional work together, and we've really tried to hone in our skills as sections. I know the altos and I have had several sectionals together where we really worked on projection and stuff like that, and we've kind of got our own little mottos that each of the sections is trying to portray. So it's really helped kind of foster a different sense within our ensemble that we would normally even get in a regular year. So once again, thank you so much for coming out, and with that, we will continue our program. Thank you so much. Before we sing our final piece in the junior high set, we actually have an event that we want to celebrate tonight. We have a member of the choir tonight that is celebrating his golden birthday. So, what better way to celebrate than with a choir singing happy birthday? So, we can have the birthday boy just step out here a second. Jackson, it's my due diligence to embarrass him. Let you in on a little secret that actually is a connection between Jackson and I. So his mother, Kathy Dornweir, back when she was in school, she was actually taught in choir by my father. My father was a choir teacher for 12 years down in Sigourney in the southeast corner, and she was a student of his growing up, and now I get to teach her son. So it's a little connective tissue. You want to give us a starting pitch? Let's go with that. Here we go, everybody. Ready, and happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Jackson. Happy birthday to you. It's my due diligence to embarrass them greatly on their birthdays, as is the case for everybody. So, before we move into our next piece, just to kind of inform you of how things are going to work, to keep audience sizes down, again, you should have informed this in the email I sent out. If you do not have a student, after we are done, that's in the high school portion of the concert, we do ask that you leave after your child is done singing so that we can bring in the high school crowd and still keep crowds as small as possible. But once again, thank you so much for coming out. I know when we split it into two like this, it's a really quick drive out here, but we thank you so much. I know these kids, they do what they do, but none of it would be worth doing without the support of friends and family and the community. So thank you so much for supporting your children in their endeavors in the arts. It means more to them than I think any of us will ever know. So thank you so much for that, parents. And we leave you with our last piece with a interpretation of the classic Christmas carol, Good King Wenceslas.
Good King Wenceslas,
Again, thank you so much for coming out. So as the junior high choir process is off, if you're leaving after this portion, you can find your child over by the commons in the high school gym area. And then as we transition now, we will set up some things for the high school portion and hopefully get started with that around 7:30. If you're leaving for tonight, thank you so much for coming out. And if not, please stay for the rest of the concert. We hope you enjoy.
I'm pretty sure I can. Yeah. It's a long way to take a picture though. I'm assuming it'll be on the stage. So she was supposed to be here at 7. What was the practice? Yeah, I will.
You done it?
So I go back down.
You did?
10 minutes later, she's still in bed. I'm like, you not get the plane back. And she's like, yeah, I'm going. I'm like, no, you should have been dressed. I'm like, not in your bag, going out the door. I'm already late. No, like when you're late for work, you don't like right or high school. You're not like, oh, let me grab my feet and just hang out a bit later. Like, you don't. If I'm late for work, I'm like literally out the door in 3 minutes. So I'm like, girl, just get up. She's like, I'm already late. She's done that in the past, and then she's like, it's not fun. So I'm like, you are going. Like, this is a commitment. I'm like, so now you have to drive. So now you are officially 40 minutes late. And really, you just like, I'm like, maybe 15
Oh, is it? Really?
So I said, example, the first time you go to college and you're late for class and the door is up and you go to pull it and it's just super embarrassing. And she's like, I'm being serious. That really happened. I don't know if they still do that. We're in a different world now, maybe they don't do that. And I just remember the first time it happened and I was like, oh my God. So bad. And I was like, oh my God.
Very cool. Really? I bet she loves it. What's that?
Great. I'm ready for Christmas,
Hanging in there. You? It was a little chilly.
I am not big happy.
Nothing was.
The presents are like, so I do have to use that.
remind you, the state does require that at public events you need to have masks on. I have extras here. If you forgot your mask at home, we greatly appreciate your cooperation. This is a state mandate, so appreciate it. Thank you.
Huh?
Thank you so much for joining us tonight for the high school portion of our concert. This is the Whistling Triple Choir. They are a very fun group to work with. We have a lot of good times a couple days a week working together, and they have prepared some wonderful pieces for you tonight. So we're starting out with the classic Christmas hymn, Infant Holy, Infant Lowly.
Holy,
So our third piece in this set is entitled Balulolo, and just to give you some context of the name, that's not a word that we're used to hearing in our everyday language. Balulolo is an Old English term used to describe the prayer from the Mother Mary to the baby Jesus. So this song is meant to be a lullaby to the newborn Jesus on Christmas. So think of that in context as you listen to this. This is Balulolo. so much. That is such a fun group to work with. I hope you enjoyed that. If you give us just a little time here, we are going to set up for the jazz choir, which will be performing for you on the stage, and then performing a little Barbra Streisand number for you. So give us some time to get set up for that, and we hope you enjoy the high school jazz choir.
One, two,
3,
4,
5,
6,
8,
9, 10, 11,
12,
13,
14.
15.
16.
All right, before we do our next tune, just a little background about this group. This is the high school jazz choir, the Wildcat Jazz Choir. It is made up of 16 singers this year. Everybody go. They, again, this is a fabulous group of kids. We meet 2 mornings a week in preparation for our jazz season this spring. And they have been absolutely bringing it so far this year. You are in for an absolute treat here. These kids, this group is done by audition. So they auditioned in the fall after marching season ends, and we have been working since about that time on this song as well as our contest rep, which we will hopefully get to do in the spring. Most of the time we have a contest season that lasts from about January to March. This year it's a little bit more up in the air, but if you ever get a chance at any point later this year to hear these singers outside of the concert here, I highly recommend it. They are a fabulous group. They are accompanied by Mr. Danger Hogendorn on the piano and Mr. Graham Robinson on bass. So you are in for a lovely treat. This is the Barbra Streisand arrangement of Jingle Bells. We hope you enjoy it.
Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in one-horse open sleigh. Hey, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in one-horse open sleigh. We're dashing through the snow in one-horse open sleigh. O'er the fields we go, laughing all the way. Bells on bobtails ring, making spirits bright. Oh, what fun it is to sing a sleighing song tonight. Oh, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in one-horse open sleigh. Hey, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in one-horse open sleigh. A day or two ago, I thought I'd take a ride, and soon Miss Fanny Bright
take some time. We'll briefly send for Vic's chorus. Thank you so much.
Oh, God. No. I'll cover up.
It's going well too. That's great. You don't do the big slash. You have to do I have his in my pocket. Just in case somebody shows up, really wanted to be at the concert. I got them covered. Not sure I can put off. There are people who go to the grandparents. Not my point out. Not your I love and then she'll have really good I didn't even think about it. Chrissy's really excited about that. Or maybe get a picture that's not blurry. Look for all the rest of it. It's fine. I'm like, oh, well, sorry, I'm leaving.
Thank you so much. So this is the West Lyon Mixed Choir. They are 70 voices strong. We meet either 2 or 3 days a week. This year we've been meeting here in this very room every day. We normally, again, rehearse in the choir room on the other side, but we have been in this gymnasium since the start of the year. So I think anybody in the group will tell you it's definitely been a learning curve to get used to singing in the gym as opposed to a room that's built for that type of acoustics. But they have certainly risen to the challenge, and they have produced some really, really quality work this year. Before we move on to our next piece, if you look at your program, you'll notice that the piece is entitled The Star Carol, but it is subtitled from the Alfred Burt Carols. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Alfred Burt, but to give you a little background on this, it's actually a really neat story. Alfred Burt was a composer in the mid-1900s, and late 1900s. And one thing that he and actually his father started in his family, they did a tradition where the whole family was musicians. They would actually, every Christmas, they would write a original Christmas carol, new lyrics, new music and everything, and they would actually include the sheet music in their Christmas card that they would send out to family and friends. And they would write a new Christmas carol every single year for decades. And so in the choral community, they are now bundled under the umbrella term, the Alfred Burt Carols, of which this is one. So I know even the family that still exists today continues on that tradition of writing new carols for their friends and family. So just imagine that anytime you get a Christmas card from your friends that came with new music every single Christmas. So that's just a little bit of interesting backstory on this piece. So this is from the first set of Alfred Burt carols entitled The Star Carol. We hope you enjoy it. Again, thank you so much. Show of hands, how many of you adults here growing up ever listened to the album Christmas with John Denver and the Muppets? Anybody listen to that one? Okay, a few hands going up. That was an album that my parents raised me on. Every year we always would listen to that, and I can still vividly remember in my head hearing animals singing Run, Run, Rudolph. And it's some of my fondest Christmas memories growing up. This arrangement of Christmas is Coming, which is actually done in a round, so you'll hear it stated together in the first verse, and then each of the subsequent verses, the choir layers over themselves. This arrangement comes from that album that John Nimmer put out with the Muppets characters several decades back. And it is, again, one of my favorite arrangements that really brings me back to those feelings of listening to this particular album growing up. As you can see, we have a veritable passel of instruments joining us for this arrangement. And if you look in your program, you can see all who are accompanying us on this. We hope you enjoy. Thank you so much. A little detour here before we start the last piece. If you auditioned for all states this past fall, would you please come to the front? So, over this year, obviously, many things have either gotten adjusted or canceled or, all sorts of things over the past year. One of those things that got adjusted is the all-state process. Something that we always tell everybody every year is the process that we have all of these all-states go through. And these lovely students that you see before you auditioned for the all-state choir. This is the most I've had auditions since I've been here, so they were wonderful to work with. Normally, how the process works is that they will get their music in early August and learn it as well as they can. And they normally audition in groups from either down to a solo up through a full quartet, soprano, alto, tenor, and bass. And then they usually go in on a live audition day and they have 7 minutes to sing the cuts that they get that morning at like 5 a.m. They have 7 minutes to sing those cuts for a judge, and then those judges decide who is all-state caliber. So it's a very rigorous process. Tons and tons of people audition, very few get accepted statistically. But this year, the process was made even harder. One, for the fact that it was not a live audition process, and two, because every single student auditioned alone. So not only do they normally have to sing their parts, but they also have to do it a cappella. So instead of having other people to sing along with, they had to pre-record all 7 minutes of their audition, completely a cappella, no piano, and make it absolutely as perfect as possible. Normally you just get that one shot in the room, but now every single student in the state had as many chances as they wanted to make their audition absolutely perfect. So you can imagine the competition this year was pretty fierce, more so than even usual. And out of these 8, we had actually 2 selected from that process. We had Gabe Carolyn, who was selected as an alternate, which means he is of all-state caliber. Alternates have to be all-state caliber, but there is usually a cap on the quotas of how many students per center they can take, and unfortunately Gabe was on the under end of that, but he is still considered all-state caliber from the judges. And we also had Kat Lombard, who was selected to the all-state choir for her first year this year as a junior. These kids put an incredible amount of work. I think, what did we say, all total with recording their stuff, we had an extra 12 hours here one week just recording the audition process. Usually kids came in on the weekends, spent 3 to 4 hours at a time recording their auditions. And they deserve a humongous round of applause for the big amount of students on your way out, be sure to congratulate them for all their hard work that they put in, especially in a year like this, the fact that they're still willing to put in the work, and unfortunately, especially for Kat, normally the reward you get for making it is that you get to perform in Ames of concerts, and then of course, because COVID, that was also canceled this year. So she didn't even get to reap the fruits of her labor this year. So give her a special pat on the back. As you can see, she got a pretty piece of hardware around her neck that is a testament to all of her hard work. So if you see them afterwards, ask them about it. It's a great process. All right, you guys can go back to your spots. So again, before we do our last piece, I just want to thank you all for coming out tonight. This year has been such a strange year. There really is no other way to put it. But I know a testament to these kids and to the arts community as a whole. I know in a year like this, we've often needed something to latch onto, and I know for me, as with most of my life, that has been music. When we were not allowed to be in person at the beginning of last school year and went all the way through the summer, I never imagined that I would have to know what it would be like to not make music for half a year when I spent my entire life doing that. And I'm sure some of these kids have realized that too. Those that are really involved, that's all they know. And the fact that we're able to be in person and make music and make something beautiful in a time when a lot of stuff that surrounded us is not beautiful, and in a year that has just constantly thrown us curveball after curveball. I am incredibly grateful for these students, and I'm grateful for a supportive community that lets us still make art and make good art. So thank you all for coming out tonight. Students, thank you for your tenacity and hard work. And we hope that we have imbued you with some Christmas spirit leading into the Christmas season in these next 2 weeks. So with that, we leave you with Jubilate Deo. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. Merry Christmas.